Good afternoon, everyone, or good morning, depending on where you are. Today, we are doing M-Files with a focus in manufacturing. My name is Jessica Canella, so if you guys have any questions during the event, you can pop them up in the chat, or afterwards, you can contact any single one of us here at PeopleSense. You can always contact Jim Castellano, myself, Jessica Canellis, for Intuitive. You can contact Gary Cerny for Made to Manage. You can contact Jim Cooey for any other ERP, HR, payroll, time and attendance, Jim McCormick. And then also, of course, M-Files questions, you can email Brendan James. I'm going to go ahead and give it over to Daniel from our ImageX team so we can get it started.
Wonderful. Thanks, Jess. Can you hear me?
Yes. Let me give this to you.
Hi, good evening for everyone out there. I'm Daniel Ma. I'm the Principal Solutions Architect for ImageX. And we're going to focus on a demo of M-Files for manufacturing. I'm going to go and share my screen. All right, so hopefully everyone can see my screen. So this is my M-Files UI. M-Files is a document management solution that has AI built in. There's actually quite a bit we can do with AI, but I'm not going to focus on that too much today. I'm going to focus more on just the basic functionality of what M-Files can do and focus on two specific use cases. One of them is a workflow to capture, CAPA, corrective action, preventive action. And then we're going to actually showcase something called Workspace, which will help users find information related to a specific client, product, supplier very easily. So what you see on my screen is a M-Files desktop, right? We also have a mobile app. We also have a browser deployment, but for today's demo, I'm going to focus more on the desktop. What you see on my screen is the basic UI of M-Files. We have a big search box in here, which we'll use in a bit. We have our common views. Common views are things that we have predefined as things that we look at on a regular basis, right? Once I start demoing the system, we'll showcase some of these different items from the UI, but overall, very clean UI, very easy for users to learn. Right? I'm going to go ahead and go into my documents real quick. For any type of document system, the one thing that we keep in the system is documents, right? How do we access documents? Well, it depends on what role you're in, right? If you're in the admin side, you're on the manufacturing side, you're on the sales side. It really depends on who you are and what kind of information you're looking for. So for me, I'm going to go and look for specific classes, right? These are different types of document that exist in the system, right? These are predefined for you, and these are a listing of documents that we have in the system, right? That's one way we can navigate and look for documents. So if I'm looking for a contract, I go into my contract folder, right? And then I can see some of these contracts I have in place. If I'm looking for something that's more specific, a purchase order, we have a purchase order in here, right? It really depends on what you're looking for the documents by classification. One of the things I look for item is I don't actually look for based on what the document class is. I look at it by the product, by the client, or by the project, right? So if I'm looking at a project, right, I can go into this elevated request, and here are all my different documents, right? So for me, it's more important for me to identify all the related documents in a specific project than anything else. So in here, we have our content. Here's a document. Here is the metadata, and here is our preview, right? And we can actually toggle the metadata as appearing or not. It depends on what you want to do. If you want to maximize the preview screen, you can look at this, right? You can go to the next page, previous page. You can click on a different document, and you can actually see all the documents, pretty easily from our UI. And you can just, highlight, show it if you want. You can double click, you can edit the document, you can collaborate, you can check out the document if you want to. So I can actually check out the document and make some notations in the system. right? So I can come in here and say, oh, this is now for the 600DX model. So I can actually save this document, and the system will actually retain an audit history of the change, and all the different versions I have in the system will be available to me as an audit. So I'm going to go ahead and actually close out of this. I do not want to make a change and save this. I'm going to go ahead and just hit no and remove the checkout feature because I'm actually not going to make any changes to it. Okay? But that's something that our system can do quite well is check in, check out, retain the history of the document. So if there is a document that's been changed over the life of several years, we can have the first version up to the latest version of the content itself. Okay? So this is how I would look for document by project. But there are other people out there that's more on the sales role, right? They want to actually look at a document by client. So they can go to Acme and see all the different documents that Acme has submitted over the years. So that's another way users can go into the system and find it, right? Having these predefined common view is a very quick and easy way to get to contents based on what it is that's predefined. So users do not need to learn how to search for a document. They can use the common views and dig into the common views and find what they want. Or if you know what you're looking for a contract, you can just type in the contract, and this will show you all the different contracts that we have in the system, right? That's another way you can actually navigate and find content, right? For me, searching for a document is something I do on a regular basis. Sometimes I want something very specific, so I just type in contract. I can type in the 500DX model that we looked at previously, and they'll find me exactly what I want because it's the contract 500DX, and here is the document in question. So rather than finding for something very generic, I'm looking for something very specific. And from when I type in contract 500DX, it finds that exact item I want. And here's the preview of the document that we looked at previously. I can remove the metadata, and here is my preview. I can expand on it to make this bigger. I usually do not open the document because the preview window gives me allows me to see the document itself. So I don't necessarily need to double click and open the document in Word. It doesn't mean I can't. I can actually double click, open the document. It will launch Word, Excel, PowerPoint, PDF, Acrobat, anything that you have on your desktop. But for me, I usually just stay on the actual preview and see my document from here because there's really no need to double click and open because I can read the content quite well in here. One of the things that we have in mFile is we're not just searching for contract 500DX on the metadata, right? We're also searching for it in the body of the document too. So contract 500DX is something that I searched for. I was able to find this. But if you have something that's in the body of the document itself, that becomes searchable also. So any kind of keywords that you have, take a little bit of time, don't know why. Right? Any keywords that you have in the system become searchable too. So if I want to find Munich, Germany, I can actually come in here and say, well, let's see what I have in Munich. And here are all the different documents I have in Munich. So once again, right, I'm not looking for anything that's on the metadata. I'm looking at something that's in the body of the document. And then if I add in 500DX, that lovely. It was 500DX, right, Brenda? That fat thing or something in here. Yeah, 500DX. Okay, there we go. I cheated a little bit. So if we want, we can use the combination of the keyword search in the body of the document as well as the metadata. That's another way we can actually search for content, right? Adding content into mFiles is actually quite simple. So we can actually drag and drop documents into the system. So I'm going to go ahead and go into one of my projects. I'm going to go into by a specific project. Let's say this one right here, the wheelbarrow. I can literally go to my desktop, drag and drop a document in, and then this document will now have some of the information I have in the system. So I'm going to go find a document. Okay. So when you drag a document into mFiles, it's going to inherit anything that you add it into. So by default, when I drag it into the wheelbarrow design project, it actually grabbed that data as the metadata. And all I have to do in here is go into my different document types in here, expand on document management, and say, oh, this was a status report. And then it knows that based on this project, it's the client Acme. So yes, right? And then I can actually identify what type of document it is. It's a internal document. And there's other fields I can populate if that's something I want to do. And everything that you see in here is customizable based on what you need the system to be, right? In here, I have quite a bit of metadata, but you can actually have it be very, very simple. So this is all the different metadata that we have in for this document. It's quite extensive. You can populate as much as you like or as little as you like based on what the required fields are. So short title, document purpose, class, or the required field, right? The client and the project are not, right? And some of these items are not required. So adding content into mFile is as simple as dragging and dropping them into the system. Once they're in mFile, it becomes searchable, right? So what I've done earlier was go in and find documents based on the views that we created or the content we're looking for in search. Another way that mFiles have kind of changed the game a little bit is they have a couple other items they added in the past 3-4 months. It's called Workspace, right? And now we have the opportunity to actually add specific items in here. That's what I call high touch. So products, clients, suppliers, or something that we access on a regular basis. So mFiles have actually added that functionality in here. So rather than me going into view, going into products, projects, or clients, now it's actually shortcut directly onto the top of your screen. So if I want, I can click on products, and these are all the different products I have in the system. Here are some of the products that was actually used frequently, right? And here are the list of clients I have in the system, and these are the recent clients I have access. And same for suppliers. So here are some of the suppliers I have in the system, and here are the ones I accessed recently. So one of the things I want to actually showcase is on top of having the 3 different items spotlighted, mFiles introduced something called Workspace, right? So it changes the way users interact with the system. So when I go to client, I double click on it. Now we have something called Workspace. This Workspace is configurable to what you want the system to show you. So for me, when I click on the client, I need to know who the contacts are. I need to know what projects are being worked on. I want to see if there's any service requests in the system for them. And I want to see all the CAPAs that they have in the system, as well as all the different documents they have. So this is something that mFiles has introduced as a new feature to help users get to the information they need quicker. They don't have to navigate around from one UI. They can literally go from, okay, what documents do they have? What projects are they working on? What, okay, that's weird. Which CAPAs they have, and what service requests they have out in the system. And from any one of these workspace items, you can actually click on it. You can see the metadata. Who is Anne? Anne is with Acme. What is her information? It's all in here. What project is being worked on? Well, there's that 5,000 DX elevator, right? What is that? Well, that was to replacement of old elevators with the new 500 DX model. What is the wheelbarrow design project? Is the design project we have with Acme, right? And then we can look at the CAPAs. What are some of the CAPAs? The corrective action, preventive action that we have with them. We have a hydraulic fluid and pumps, preventive action. And then we have a corrective action where we had to replace fluids and clean the fluids in the hydraulic pump system. And then if I keep expanding, I can see a service request. There was actually a booking handle with one of the elevators in the system, right? So the workspace now introduce a new way of looking at content and context in mFiles where it's right there in your face, right? It's easier to get to than previously. And this is something that mFiles is going to push moving forward. much easier to actually get to the content or any related information for that one, in this case, client. I can do the same. If I go into the supplier, I can double click on one of the suppliers I have in the system, and this will show me all the documents they have in the system, its drawings and non-conformance reports, and then these are the products that they have, right? So when I enable supplier, I want to focus on the documents that they have and the products we use them as suppliers for. So from here, I can click on this Axle and I can see, okay, it is from this supplier, right? And who are the team members who's involved, and just kind of high level information for that specific product itself, right? I'm going to go look at the product itself. So if I double click on one of these items, I'm going to go and cheat. I forgot which one I have, the DS1300. So I'm going to double click on this DS1300, and here is the actual metadata. But if I double click on it, it will show me any related documents for that specific item. So I have data sheets, I have drawings, and then I have non-conformance reports for that specific product itself. I can double click. Here is some technical data about that specific product itself. So once again, right, the common theme is mFiles makes it easier for users to get to the right information very quickly. Okay, and then go back to the product itself. I can look at this and say, oh, we actually have a couple of corrective action and preventive actions on this specific product itself, right? You don't have to go and chase these items separately. Just the fact that you're in the product itself, you're able to navigate to any important or related documents for that specific, product itself, right? Documents by grouping, easier to look at. Here's the CAPA. You click on the CAPA itself, it'll take you to the CAPA. You can see the information about the CAPA itself, right? Super slick way to present data, information to users, right? They don't have to be a super, savvy mFiles user, because we make it where it's essentially, you know how to click a button, you can get to your content pretty easily. And then from here, you can actually search for it. Say, hey, what is that DS300 model? You can just do a search for 300. And that only looks for products matching that search, right? We're not searching for the whole system. We're focusing the search just on products. So when I search for 300, once again, this is the item I want to look at, and here's the metadata. When I go click on client, right, same thing. We're not looking for a whole system. When I search, I'm only searching for Acme, right? And that's going to only give me Acme. Same thing for supply. When we spotlight these 3 different items, when we search, it's only search within this view. So it's not going to search across everything I have in the system. It's only going to search in that specific object, supplier, client, products. You can also add other key information for your use case in here. I just pick product, client, supplier as the ones I use on a regular basis, because that's how my workspace is configured. It allows me to get to something quickly, right? So on the topic of CAPA, mFiles also have a feature where we can actually set up a lot of different workflows. So I'm going to go ahead and bring this over in a second. So this is the back end of my mFiles ImageX manufacturing environment. So here are the different workflows we have in the system. Depending on what your use case is, we can create new workflows to help you monitor the process. But today, for this demo, I'm going to go ahead and actually spotlight the CAPA processing. Very simple, right? We create a new CAPA. We'll wait for the assessment, right? We'll wait for completion and complete it. It's just a very simple way to track, corrective action, preventive action in the system. Make sure that we assign it to the right people, and make sure these individuals actually resolve the actual workflow itself, right? And we have a history of it. We have it as a record for that specific product or that specific client or that specific supplier, so that way we can always go back and monitor how many of these actions happen based on what product, what supplier, or what client it is, right? It's just a really nice way to have all your information in the system. So from here, I'm going to go ahead and actually create a new item. I'm going to create a new CAPA. So what is this? It's a preventive action, right? It didn't break yet. I'm going to go ahead and actually find something, right? These are some of the previous stuff that we have in the system. There's some safety items in here. There's some hydraulic issues. I'm going to go ahead and find something that is overheating. Let's go with, that one, right? So we actually have an overheating issue in the past, and this is the last time it was actually done was this for this actual employee and for that specific product. So what I can do is I can say yes and have the system assign, or I can say, you know what, it wasn't a DS1 300, it's actually a DX1 500. So I can say, let's go ahead and add this in, right? And I'll put a due date of maybe end of the month. Give it a short title. Okay. And then I can actually add, I'm gonna recommended action, right? We can say, refill fluid and clean assembly. And we can identify, what asset it is they have, right? And create this document. Oh, I'm gonna go ahead and cheat a little bit, grab this. So as I create this workflow item, okay, so we have now recorded this item. I can actually move it into assessment. So once I move this into assessment, it will assign it to the appropriate people in the system, right? Right now, I don't know who actually has it, but it's actually sent and submitted to that next individual for them to do the assessment. It can be a field service engineer. It can be somebody from service dispatch. They'll go ahead and assign that preventive action item to somebody on the team. Once the field tech actually resolve the issue, when they come back and submit the document, right? What they can do is they can add the additional document or provide notes when they move the workflow from this step to the next step, right? So it can be documentation that they want to add. So let's say there's a document that they want to add, they can actually add the document into the system, right? So now they have, documents, right? They can add pictures to that specific, preventive action item. So that way you have that item in the system. I'm going to find a picture somewhere on my computer. I'm going to add a video. So I can also add a video to this too. So if the technician is taking a video of what the issue is, they can actually record the video, attach that video into the actual preventive action item, and then they can come back into the system and say, well, we finished assessment. Okay. Once the assessment is completed, it can actually move back into the service manager. Service manager looks at the content that was added by the technician, and he or she in turn can say, you know what, it's been completed. So now we have a record of this specific PA item that's completed, and we have documents on why it was completed. We have notes in the system, and basically to help us provide that audit on each one of these items in the system. So this is just a quick, simple workflow to track a preventive action workflow item in the system. We can actually craft the workflow to be a lot more complicated, but for this one, it's pretty straightforward. I didn't change my profile from a field service to a service manager, but that's essentially what happened, right? Once it's been assigned to that technician, they fulfill the assignment, right? Assessment recorded, documentation video. Once they back submit it, the service manager will be aware that it's been completed. Assessment was completed, and they can review it, and then they can actually complete the CAPA assignment altogether. Right? So I'm going to go ahead and actually end my demo right now and see if there's any questions in chat.
There are not. If you guys do have questions, you can throw them down in the chat or afterwards. You can email myself or you can email Brendan or Daniel, and we can get you taken care of. All right. And I would like to thank everybody for coming today. I'm going to pop up my screen so you guys, if you have any questions, you can have all of our contact information. So again, if you guys have any questions, contact any single one of us here at PeopleSense, and we will get you in touch with the Imagex team and get something going for you. So thank you, everyone, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. Have a good day.